Alright, welcome back to More Than Peaches Gaming. I'm your host, Mune. Today we are going to be dealing with a very specific dungeon. We're waiting for our last person to actually get logged on. I think they might be switching where they're at. We are going to be doing Grey Wolf Den. This is a level 36 dungeon. You only need 3 people for it. There is a master version, but we are just doing the normal version. For anybody who's interested in doing the master version, I will be doing a video later on that. But this will give you kind of a rough run through of where to go and how to deal with certain things and how to make shortcuts. Alright, there aren't that many secrets in the game. Not particular things. Somebody's asking me roughly what I'm running. I'm just going to tell them courage and wisdom. Alright, so now we have our queue ready to go. We're all private queued up, and we're going to go ahead and start running into Grey Wolf Den. Without further ado. So this dungeon is pretty straightforward for the most part. There are some additional turns that you can make, but you aren't required to do so. I'm sorry if you hear some loud booming or wind sounds during this video. I have inconsiderate neighbors. So, pretty straightforward. You defeat these first few groups of enemies. If you have a weaker party, you might want to consider, you know, luring them out to you, or have an ally do it. Here's your first shortcut that you can take. You can either defeat these enemies and hit this orb. Sometimes it takes a minute or two to defeat them. Even me being an item level of 3600 is quite challenging. Or if you want to take the shortcut, you can just hop across the lake. You will take a little bit of damage, but it won't kill you in particular. Like, not very quickly, especially if you're a higher item level. I only recommend taking any shortcuts in this dungeon if you are higher item level. Okay? Simply because it can get quite dangerous really quickly. So, just roll up these stairs. You will get ambushed every time by these guys. They'll be coming running down, and they will try to jump at you. Alright? And around the corner, and there's some more enemies. There's a treasure chest with a trap. You can try to get it if you want. It's not really necessary. One thing to note here, you have to actually pull the lever to get in to fight the boss here. Whereas in the master version, it's already open. Alright. Again, with this area, I'm going to always recommend the same 3: Blinding Light, Templar's Wrath, and Smite for your offensives if you are a paladin. But you don't necessarily have to. There are additional, like, treasures and things down these holes. I'm not going to go through all of these because if I did, this run would last incredibly longer. Alright. There is a path up here to the left for a nature kit if you want it, but you don't have to go after it. Otherwise, you can, if you really want to skip this area, you can. You just hug the wall to the right. Likewise, when you're up here, you can also hug the wall to the right to go where you need to go without actually fighting this group of enemies. If you're in a hurry to get through the dungeon, just for clearing the dungeon's sake, that's what you can do, and there's an arcane kit there. Nothing too special about this dungeon for shortcuts. First group of enemies is right here. They are pretty much unskippable. You can try to go off to the right if you want to take the long way for additional stuff, but for this purpose, we're not going to. There's a religion kit if you want it. As you see, the other path. Up here we have another group of enemies. You can quickly take them out if you want. And you will note that this gate is closed. Okay, in the master version, the gate is open. There's no lever. It's just automatically there. Alright. With this boss, I don't know any great strategies on dealing with them other than just take them out as quickly as possible. They will sometimes drop stuff. In the master version, I think the drop rate of good gear from it is okay. Again, these things have nodes to farm. And more up here. Again, nothing too interesting. They're just everywhere. So far, we've already killed 2 bosses. We're already 2/3 of the way through the dungeon. It doesn't get much harder. There are some interesting areas. Here is an ambush. If you are lower level, you might want to stand back and try to pick them off slowly or draw them back towards the bonfire, but it's not required. If you're a tank and you're doing the master version, you might want to consider protecting your allies. This area in particular is can be challenging for a lot of players because you get all of these guys kind of ambushing you, and Stormcallers are no pushovers when you first encounter them. And if you're playing the master version, they're not fun at all to fight. Generally, you want to make sure you have a starter party for that. Continuing on a little bit more, here's another junction. You can go forward to fight more enemies, or you could take the left path, which that's what we're going to do. We're just going to follow the golden line on the ground. There isn't really anything all that special in this dungeon, especially this part, because, well, the developers just didn't put anything in here. Alright, we get another cold room. Few enemies, not exactly challenging to fight them. If you want, this area in particular is very different than the master version. In the master version, enemies don't come through the window at all, so it's an empty area. Continuing on. We get more enemies, this time actually coming at us through the door. I believe in the master version you fight them all out here. So, you'll notice that I keep on referring to the master version, the epic version. It's a lot more challenging than this version, and there are only very subtle differences. When we get to the final boss, you will notice the difference immensely. Quick Easter egg, if you look off to the right, you'll see the boss and minions running towards where we're running to. So, it's their way of saying, well, they weren't waiting for us the entire time. So we're going to go ahead and approach, and some of the enemies are going to come after us. I'm going to keep moving forward and kill a few of these guys. There are some kits off to the right and left. Just keep an eye out for them. You must pull this lever to continue. If you don't, you have a perilous death on the spikes. Oh, come on. So, my devoted cleric just died. Dang it, Ophelia. I have a right to say that, more or less. I run with Ophelia all the time. Alright. And there's a bonfire and the boss door. Okay, to enter the cave. This is actually a really big boss room. And I mean, it's so big that you can walk from one side to the other and not be in battle on the other side if the boss is on the opposing side. There are some key strategies to fighting this boss. In particular, the mechanics to fight her are pretty simple. You just kind of walk in. I always like to walk off the edge. I take a little bit of damage, but otherwise nothing too big of a deal. Okay. So we're beating her up pretty good. I'm gonna let her transform. So she transforms, and while she is transformed, she can still take damage. In the master version, you have to use very specific things to kill her, and I'll go over that when I do that video. And the chest is even in a different spot. So, just a heads up. Alright, treasure chest is in the middle. I'm not really going to get it. Pretty much that is all that there is to this dungeon. Pretty simple. If you're having trouble with her and her transformation, try to debuff her any way you can with a debuff companion or buff your party. Alright? Other than that, just bring a strong DPS. Alright, and that so concludes what I have to say about this dungeon in particular, the Grey Wolf Den. Mind you, you might want to look forward towards the master version if that's something that you're wanting to do more of. I'll have a video up later about that. So, thank you all for watching, and hopefully this video was useful.